This is The Guardian.
Hello and welcome to The Guardian Football Weekly. England qualified for the World Cup, 6 wins from 6, no goals conceded. Every time we qualify comfortably before we win the tournament. Here we go again. It was only Latvia, but there was more good stuff from a balanced midfield. Harry Kane was back and scored a couple. Perhaps the back four is the only place where Tuchel himself isn't certain who goes where. Also, it took one Armenian headbutt and one Irish header, but the Republic are still in it. Evan Ferguson with a decisive goal, which means a playoff spot is still within reach. Wales took the lead against Belgium, who equalised with one of those handballs. Perhaps it would have been different if they'd held on for longer. Jeremy Doku was magnificent, and there's a classic lost bravely from Northern Ireland at home to Germany. Elsewhere, we'll round up Europe and congratulate Cape Verde, who qualified for the first time. Also, Jack Wilshere's confirmed at Luton, Millie Bright retires, and Barry's half-marathon quest begins in earnest. All that plus your questions, and that's today's Guardian Football Weekly. On the panel today, Dan Bardell, hello.
Hello, Max.
From Not the Top 20, Ali Maxwell, hello.
Good morning.
And from Running, Barry Glendenning, welcome.
Hello.
Let's start then with Latvia 0, England 5. 6 wins, no goals conceded. That's 37 World Cup qualifying games without defeat since 2009. Rich on Blue Sky says, do we even need to play the World Cup? It's so obviously coming home. It all seems a bit pointless. Mark says, does the panel have any views on Barry's cynical ploy to run himself to death to avoid it coming home next year? So look, we've qualified for the 2026 World Cup in USA, Canada and Mexico with 2 games to spare. It was very comfortable, Dan, wasn't it?
Did you say 2009 was the last time we lost a qualifier?
That's what I read somewhere and put it in.
That is a long run, a very long run, isn't it? Longer than the run Barry's about to undertake. Look, what do you say? We've qualified. We should qualify. We always seem to qualify now, but I think we're starting to see a little bit more now about what Tuchel's England is about. That settled 11, making people have to work hard to get back into the squad, to get the shirt. If you play well, you keep the shirt. If you play well in one game, you play the next now. I think it's all looking pretty rosy at the moment. So like everyone else is saying, it's undoubtedly coming home, and I'm getting ready for my summer celebrations already.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing though, Ali. I feel like I've had this conversation before, as we round off a comfortable qualifying campaign and we say it's only insert patronise smaller nation and then say we should qualify, but this time it feels different. I've definitely said that before.
Possibly. I mean, this has felt different because we're still learning about Tuchel and his stewardship, and I thought it was really funny, actually, looking back, that after a good, solid home win in a friendly against Wales, Tuchel got the flamethrower out to talk about the atmosphere at Wembley. He did not need to say anything like that and stir that up, but I think you just have to accept that Tuchel is going to be a bit like that. Last night, there's not loads to report, is there, other than we now know that John Stones is sort of akin to Harry Kane, just a complete lock to start for England at the back whenever he's fit. He probably joins Pickford and Rice as the absolutely nailed-on starters, and you'd probably put Reece James and Bukayo Saka in that as well, albeit James was injured in this camp and Saka has been injured previously.
Probably Harry Kane. Probably put Harry Kane in there.
Yeah, I think I did, but maybe
did you?
We take Kane for granted so much, which is the oft-used expression, that I missed him out. Yeah, and Kane's finish with his left foot from 20 yards into the corner. It's amazing that we have a player who can do that. And I think there's signs that Anthony Gordon is the left-sided forward that complements Kane the best. And that's obviously been a big talking point ever since Sterling's form for club and country has kind of fallen off a cliff. He was the only player that's really probably clicked with Kane in an England shirt the way that you'd want in that position. And Gordon came into the international break saying, I don't feel like I've shown even half of what I can do in an England shirt, and I'm really desperate to do that. And I thought that was quite sweet and vulnerable in a way. And then he's absolutely backed it up with both performances against Wales and last night against Latvia. And I think he's probably the star of this international break. So, because we're always looking for some negatives, even when we're winning every game to 0, I would point out that qualifying with 2 qualifying games to spare is almost a bit annoying when there's now no competitive games until the World Cup in that sense. Just 2 games next month where we've already qualified, not much jeopardy on them. The 2 friendlies in March and then the warm-up games that I think will be in Florida before the tournament. And then the other negative, if you're really digging, is that the one team we thought were going to be a sort of sturdy opponent in this group was Serbia. We beat them 5-0 and we thought maybe we're just amazing, and then subsequently they've proven that they are just in an absolute shambles and their coach has left during this international break. So yeah, we still haven't had a particularly stiff test, but feeling pretty good about things overall.
Yeah, somebody did message, and I didn't write it down, so can't remember the name, but it was, will the next international break be the most international break ever, given that there is literally nothing riding on it for England? I mean, I would go further, perhaps, than Ali, Barry, to say that front 6 looks really, obviously injuries aside and dramatic losses of form aside, but that front 6 looks very settled with Elliott, Anderson and Rice behind Rodgers, and then Saka, Kane and Anthony Gordon.
Yeah, certainly none of them have done anything wrong. Rodgers wasn't as lively last night against Latvia as he has been in the past, but that's severe nitpickery on my part. I mean, some brilliant players are going to be left out of this squad, and that is a fact, because I think it's probably going to be 26. I don't think that's nailed on yet, but whether it's 23 or 26, some really top quality players are going to be left crushed by their omission. It's a problem. Oh God, I'd love if Ireland had problems like that, but I can't, boring myself now, I can't see Jude Bellingham not being in the team. I think he will be, but if I was him, I'd still be a bit nervous. I don't think Thomas Tuchel, doesn't strike me as an even remotely sentimental man. I don't think he'll have any problem leaving out big names if he has to. Big names will be left out. The problem for England is they haven't really faced anyone good, and I don't think the weather in the States is going to be a big problem. I think that's going to be the most problematic factor at the World Cup. That, and if England come up against a really good team in stifling conditions, that could be their undoing.
Which I guess means you need a midfield that keep the ball, right? Which is why Elliot Anderson is so key. I suppose the interesting thing about if Rodgers starts and Bellingham's on the bench, Dan, it's going to be a real test of Morgan Rodgers, how he deals with pressure, because he will know that basically as soon as the game, whichever it is, isn't going quite right, whether it's breaking down a low block or it is we're losing to France in the quarterfinals, there'll be the clamour for Bellingham, or the clamour for whoever isn't on the pitch, I guess.
I think that's the way it always is, though. I think that was the way it was in the last Euros when we weren't exactly pulling up trees, excuse the pun, after the stadium last night. But there was
oh, they were lovely. They were so nice.
They were very, very nice. I enjoyed watching them. In fairness, there's always players to come in. There's always club bias. There's always people wanting the player from their team, saying that they should be the one starting. I think what Tuchel's doing well at the moment is he's just kind of proving to all the players in this kind of short spell that if you play well, you will keep the shirt. I don't mind leaving big names out, whereas previous England managers have maybe been a little bit guilty of shoehorning players in, maybe trying to get not the best 11, but apparently who the best 11 players are into a team. We saw it with Foden in the last Euros, and it didn't really work. I think Tuchel, like Ali says, he's almost prepared to throw a flamethrower at things. I think the difference is that because Thomas Tuchel knows he's going to be so short term, he doesn't mind upsetting people. Whereas again, maybe previous England managers, they're so desperate to keep the job, they're probably doing things that they wouldn't normally do, or that they don't necessarily think is the right thing for the team. So the way Tuchel's behaving and what he's actually doing is the right thing for England. And we're seeing that because we're seeing better performances and more balanced performances now. And people will be left out. There's going to be so many players that don't even go to this next tournament. There's going to be so many good players sat on that bench. We're in a really, really healthy position. There's maybe only a few places in the team, as you said earlier, that there's maybe only a few places in the team where we don't know who the guy is in that position. But things are looking good. Things are looking fresh. And, these last 2 international breaks, whereas I wasn't quite seeing it before, the last 2 now I'm starting to see it.
Ali, interestingly, Mark Gay didn't keep, played well and didn't keep his shirt. I don't know if that's a fitness thing, or you talk about John Stones being a lot, but I would wonder if Stones and Gay would be your starting partnership at centre-back.
Yeah, Konsa starting over Gahey last night definitely gave me sort of pause for thought. Gahey's more comfortable as the left-sided centre-back, but Stones played left centre-back with Konsa alongside him. So if Gahey was playing, would Stones play on the right and Gahey on the left? This is where we're at this stage, and it's a good position to be in, kind of really drilling down on that sort of thing. But Stones looked incredibly comfortable. Look, Konsa and Gahey are both exceptional, and I think in any other era, both of them would be playing for the major teams in English football, and I think it just shows the strength of the Premier League and the kind of heft of clubs such as Aston Villa and Crystal Palace that they are able to keep these guys. They're both unbelievable and would have such bigger and better reputations if they were playing for bigger and better clubs. But when you watch them play for England, they're pretty flawless, both of them, every time they play. Konsa in particular, I think, is just an unbelievable defender. Great recovery tackle last night. And if you consider that centre-back partnerships are more important really than the individual players themselves, what's more important is that they work well as a duo. I think it is significant that Konsa started last night and got that time alongside Stones and looked exceptional, because I wonder if he might be a slightly better fit, maybe being a bit stronger aerially, a bit more size to him than Gahey. It's that is one of the interesting decisions for Tuchel to make as we get towards the tournament.
But interestingly, that a club that is as tin pot as Aston Villa have a couple of players starting down in this team. I'm kidding, of course.
Won the Wales game, Villa. 2 goals and an assist from Aston Villa players, if I recall.
Are Aston Villa going to be the 2026 West Ham?
Well, we wear claret and blue, so we're halfway there.
We can say one thing for sure is West Ham aren't going to be the 2026 West Ham. Well, I mean, unless Jared Bowen pulls it all out. What did you make, Barry, of Thomas Tuchel? I thought how brilliant to diffuse the situation over, the fans singing, are we loud enough for you? We'll sing when we want, etc. The 2,500 travelling fans. And he just laughed about it and said, I got some stick. Well done. It was good humour. I accept it. See ya.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I think there was a bit of an edge to the chanting, and it was quite funny. But fans creating an atmosphere isn't going to be... Well, it will be an issue in the States and Canada and Mexico insofar as only very rich people are going to be able to attend games. Travelling fans generally make noise. Although I did read from Jacob, I think it was Jacob's analysis last night, or maybe Dave Heitner's piece, that quite a few of the fans left before the end last night because the game was very late and it was difficult to get back into town. So I'm not sure what Tuchel will have made of that. But travelling fans generally do their bit. Even if the atmosphere at Wembley can be extremely lethargic to non-existent at times.
What does Tuchel do in the next 2 games? Because it doesn't really matter. He could pick anyone.
Yeah, there's some sort of mental gymnastics I've been trying to do here, because he was so adamant that he wanted to keep the same group that had done so well for him in September. That same group, apart from Saka coming in for the injured Madueke, which was very convenient, by the way, Madueke's injury, because would Saka have come into this squad otherwise? Thank goodness for Tuchel that he didn't have to answer awkward questions like that if he'd picked him and not Bellingham. But obviously, in the next camp, he may be able to claim that although that group of players have been excellent now for 2 subsequent camps, it would be worthwhile for him to have a look at people like Jude Bellingham, who I guess would come in for Morgan Gibbs-White, Adam Wharton potentially, who would probably come in for Ruben Loftus-Cheek, Jack Grealish maybe, albeit Gordon and Rashford at the moment seem pretty locked in on the left-hand side of the attack. Foden possibly, but it kind of feels like he's barely part of the conversation at the moment, England-wise, because, as all these conversations come back to, there's a cut-off point at some point, whether you have 23, 26, 100 players in a squad, there's going to be a cut-off. There's going to be people that miss out. We tend to focus on those that miss out. But I just wonder if there's any scenario where the English football public could approach a major tournament and just be like, yeah, I like this team, and I'm not that worried about the 24th man who's sad not to make it. Like, I wonder if we could ever get to that point. I don't think we could. but based on the last two camps, we've certainly got a group of players playing really, really well, way more attacking verve than we've seen for the last few years, and currently looking pretty solid defensively, albeit famously not very tested. And when we were against Senegal, looked incredibly wobbly.
Actually, just finally, Dan, on Jordan Pickford, who set it's the most number of clean sheets in a row. Yeah,
9 clean sheets in a row.
9 clean sheets in a row. And Lee Dixon made a point on commentary about he hasn't conceded a goal since Lee Carsley was in charge. And I wonder why, maybe it's a bit like Ali was talking about Ezri Konsa, that no bigger club than Everton has gone in for Pickford. Because he has a reputation that he's got a mistake in him, but he certainly doesn't really make them.
No, I can't remember the last big mistake he made for Everton either. I'm sure Everton fans can, but I don't remember it. I remember covering England before the Euros in 2021. And I remember at that point being worried about Pickford because he was making mistakes in the Premier League and thinking, well, if you're going to win a tournament, you're not going to win a tournament with a goalkeeper like that. And England still haven't won a tournament since then. But it's not because of the goalkeeper. He is just ultra consistent. He seems to put on that England shirt and almost be flawless every time. It must be hard in those kind of games like last night as well, when you haven't got much to do and then suddenly there's a period where you're called into action, and he dealt with what was thrown at him in the brief periods that he was busy really, really well. I think in my lifetime, certainly, as much as I love Big David Seaman, and I'm sure we all do, I think Jordan Pickford has been the best England goalkeeper that we've had, just ultra consistent, knows what he's doing, a big part of the dressing room as well, a leader, and probably could have gone to play for a bigger team than Everton. But I guess if nobody ever comes in for you, you stay where you are. The Everton fans will be delighted to have him, because there's teams that have got higher aspirations than Everton that have struggled and scratched around for a goalkeeper for the last few years who would have loved to have had him, I'm sure.
Hello, Chelsea.
Hello, Manchester United.
Yeah. Anyway, just signed a new deal with Everton. Anyway, that'll do for part 1. Part 2, we'll do the rest of the home nations, beginning with the Republic of Ireland. Welcome to part 2 of the Guardian Football Weekly. Would I get in trouble for referring to the Republic as a home nation, Barry? That's how I like to see them, in a neighbourly way.
You won't get in any trouble from me. You might get in trouble from others.
Okay, fine. Well, my apologies. But look, you could still make it, Barry.
Yeah, we could. I mean, we beat Armenia 1-0. It was another grim watch. Ireland are a team with no confidence, and there's no reason why they should have any confidence, really. The first half was diabolically bad, and then Armenia had a player sent off for sticking the nut on Finn Azaz early in the second half, and after that things got easier for Ireland. They scored Evan Ferguson scored with a header that proved to be the winner, but as soon as they scored, they sat back, low block, invited Armenia on. Armenia, they're, I think, 103rd in the world. We've scraped a win against them. It leaves us in contention to qualify, but I think we need to get something against Portugal at home in our next game, and then we need to beat Hungary in Budapest to have any chance of qualifying. I think that is highly unlikely, but if we were to pull off the unthinkable and qualify, picking our squad of 26 will not be as difficult for Heimer Hallgrimsson as picking England's squad of 26 will be for Thomas Tuchel.
It might be difficult in terms of finding 26 good footballers.
Yeah. I didn't see anything. They won. That's the only positive you can take from that game, because the performance wasn't good. They just looked scared all the time, and that's not, there's no reason why they should be, but we often talk about the weight of the England shirt, but these guys really seem to be, it's like they're playing in green chainmail. Even if we did qualify, I couldn't see us doing anything other than make up numbers.
For those who aren't across every single player, what's the midfield? Like what is the quality of play? We sort of talk about the home nations going, well, look, you have a good level of player and they need one or two superstars. And so, at the moment, none of the sides, Wales obviously have a good base level of player. I think Scotland could say the same. We feel like there's a bit of a step down to who's actually in the Ireland team, short of, I don't know, Nathan Collins and Caoimhin Kelleher, maybe Evan Ferguson.
Hallgrimsson plays 5 at the back. I would say 3 at the back, but it's generally 5. And I think that's a mistake because last night we really struggled to dominate the midfield. The midfield last night, so you had Seamus Coleman playing right wing back. He was really good, actually. Will Smallman, Jason Malumbi, Ryan Manning, Festi Ebosele, Finn Azaz. None of them world beaters. Evan Ferguson up front, and the back 3 was Jacob Ryan, Nathan Collins, Darragh O'Shea. But Hallgrimsson also, despite the paucity of quality players at his disposal, doesn't seem to have a clue what his best team is, and he keeps, people who are left out, the last squad are back in this one, and I thought he would be better, I must say. I've been disappointed with Heimer. I expected a lot better from him.
Let's go to Wales then. They lost 4-2 at home to Belgium. They took the lead by that Joe Rodon header after 8 minutes. And I know, Barry, we can't have this conversation again about the handball, but if they hold on to that lead for much longer, it does change the game, perhaps. Belgium were really good. Doku was brilliant in this game, and they deserved to win. But it feels like a pivotal moment to me, and it's just such a it's so ridiculous. I can't believe that, and I think people now think it should be a handball. I'm just furious about it all.
Yeah, and for anyone who didn't see it, it was Charles de Ketelaere struck the ball against Ethan Ampadu's outstretched arm. There was no possibility of Ampadu getting his hand out of the way in time, but I knew straight away it would be a penalty. It pretty much is a penalty these days, whether you like it or not. That's the way the game is. We constantly moan about handballs. The second one, I wouldn't have a problem with.
No, same.
That was a handball because he leaned into it. Who was Jordan James? But the first one, it was harsh. But them's the breaks. Wales started the game brilliantly. They scored, and it was a textbook. If anything, Clive, they've scored too early, and Belgium were just better than them, and Belgium deserved to win. I don't think the game or the outcome of the game hinged on that penalty against Ampadu being given or not.
Yeah, I think you're right. But I think, I don't know what you think, Ali, I think the Ketelaere is playing for it. I think we're now at a stage where players are like, I'm in the box, I'm not sure what to do. If I just flick this up, it could hit someone in the hand. And we don't want footballers doing that.
I can see how you'd see it like that. Was he trying to pick someone out? It was, it's really tough to take. It ruins what can be good, interesting spectacles. It's incredible that with so much scrutiny on the game and the laws of the game and tweaks to certain laws, that we still have not got this right, and very, very frustrating. I think it's Wales. There was a handball in the first game they played against Belgium as well. They have just had a historically bad run of handballs like that. They lost narrowly in the last game against Belgium. They lost relatively narrowly in this game as well. Lost to England, lost to Canada. And scraped a win in the last international break that wasn't hugely convincing. So I think I've been quite taken by Craig Bellamy, Wales manager, to be honest. I like the way that he talks about the game. I think he's a really interesting character, a great example of a manager not fitting in the box that people put you into based on what you were like as a player and various stories from within the dressing room. But you have to say it's been a really bad last 2 breaks, and I kind of feel like some of the air's been let out of the balloon. Both the way that they started the game at Wembley was obviously unacceptable for the Wales fans, and as you say, that they are not as good as Belgium, so losing this game is not a disgrace by any means. I was talking to some Wales fans who basically said, look, we're basically a playoff team in qualification campaigns. We're rarely going to win a group if we're in a group with Belgium or another nation on that level. So we are a playoff team, and so success for us depends on whether we make the playoffs and then obviously how we do within them. And they still have a chance of that.
Dan, Jeremy Doku was brilliant. He's having a good season, but he was brilliant. Tom Lockyer on 5 Live said it was the best performance he'd seen in his lifetime, which is, if I'm asked that question, I can't think of an individual performance where I've gone, that's the greatest performance I've ever seen in my lifetime. But it seems like hyperbole because I've seen lots of performances and lots of good ones, but he was really excellent.
Yeah, like you say, he's got off to a good start to the season for Manchester City as well. Kind of seems to have started to deliver that end product that was maybe missing from his game in previous years. I think what Ali says, you're coming up against footballers who are at a different level to you. It's really difficult for the Wales players, and when a player like Doku's on song, they're going to struggle to deal with him because Belgium have got upper end Champions League players playing for them, and Wales, with all due respect, have maybe got lower end Premier League players and top end Championship players in their 11. So if a player like Doku's on song, it's going to be difficult for them to deal with. But I think what Bellamy's trying to do generally is make Wales a bit more easier on the eye. He's got this ethos, he's got this way of playing, and Ali said the Wales fans say that they're a playoff team. Well, you can either get to the playoffs kind of backs against the wall, losing games 1-0, or you can have more exciting international breaks where you lose a game 4-2 and you actually have a go. And I know which side of the fence I'd rather be out of those two options.
Bellamy made the point after the game that he said, we've scored 5 goals against Belgium and we haven't got a point in the 2 games. So, Belgium are just better than them. It's an inescapable fact. It's not an insult. They're just better. Yeah.
I mean, there was that, and Broadhead scores and you think, okay, we're going to have real fun in this injury time. And then Trossard just scores a second later. And so that was a bit annoying, wasn't it? But yeah.
There was an interesting delay in this game, Max. I don't know if you saw, but a rat ran onto the pitch. And Thibaut Courtois tried to pick it up. And Thibaut Courtois just soared in my estimation at that moment, because if that had been me and a rat was coming for me, I'd have sprinted to the touchline, jumped into the stand, Eric Cantona style, to get away from it. And eventually the rat had to be ushered off the pitch by Brennan Johnson, at which point a ball boy tried to pick it up. Again, tip of the hat to him.
He doesn't even have gloves on, does he?
Yeah, exactly.
No.
And then the rat escaped. And then afterwards, the Cardiff City Stadium sort of head of operations seemed to have to give this apologetic interview to explain, as if it was in some way his fault there was a rat on the pitch. But anyway, it was a quite bizarre interlude in an already entertaining game.
He described the rat as a freak of nature, which I thought was one of the funniest things I think I've ever read.
The Erling Haaland of rats, isn't it? There's just no stopping this rat, is there? Wales can finish second. They've got games against Liechtenstein and North Macedonia. North Macedonia 3 points ahead, have 1 game left to play. So a win or draw against Liechtenstein would mean winning the final game against North Macedonia would put Wales in second. A draw could be enough if they thrash Liechtenstein by 6 goals or more. Not impossible. It means that game will be fun. And finishing second matters, as they'd be in pot 1 for qualifying, meaning a playoff against someone like Moldova. Finishing third would mean a playoff against someone like Italy. Which is harder.
Not necessarily.
No, you're right. Northern Ireland lost 1-0 at home to Germany. I thought, Dan, they were unlucky in this game. Germany scored, hit Voltemada's shoulder. Michael O'Neill was funny afterwards when he said, they played no more long balls than us after the Germany manager, Julian Nagelsmann, had talked about how many long balls Northern Ireland play. But in that last sort of 15-20, they had a few openings, didn't they? And just 1-0. No really clear-cut chances, but it just felt like, they were close.
Yeah, I watched that game and I thought Northern Ireland were really, really good. I think maybe Republic of Ireland fans might be watching Northern Ireland and thinking, why don't our players play like that? And I think the difference is the manager, Michael O'Neill. He's in his second spell there, and he just knows how to get the players playing above themselves, and they did that again against Germany. At the end, Germany were literally clinging on, a mixture of nice football and direct football from Northern Ireland, and they quite easily could have got something out of that game. I remember last time I was on, Ali spoke about Shea Charles, and he probably didn't have his best game, but you could just see that there's a classy operator in the middle of the park there. And I think Northern Ireland were playing 3 at the back as well, but it's not the 5 that Barry talks about. With the Republic of Ireland, players are coming forward and trying to cause problems, and I think they were unlucky to lose. And from watching Germany, I don't think I'll be putting them among my favourites to win the World Cup in the summer, because it's an unrecognisable Germany side. They were pretty dull, pretty dour. I don't know, they were probably missing a couple of players, but they just weren't a good watch at all.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, Michael O'Neill, Ali, at the end of this game was absolutely furious, wasn't it? Sort of lots of finger pointing at the ref, because I think there was like 2 minutes or 3 minutes of injury time, and there
was a joke.
Yeah, it was. I really agree with Michael O'Neill, and I feel he's sort of quite mild mannered. He's not a man to go pointing just for the sake. It's not performative pointing. He's not a performative pointer, I'd say, O'Neill.
Yeah, and the very last action of the game was Northern Ireland had a shout for a penalty. Josh McGuinness was bundled. Well, it looked like he'd been bundled over by Robert Andrich. Looking at the replay, I think he was looking for it, and he kind of charged into the German, and then the very short amount of added time at a time when Germany were on the ropes. So I could understand his frustration, but it was a very sloppy goal they gave away. Voltemade was 4 yards out, rose unchallenged. Bailey Peacock-Farrell stayed rooted to his line, probably should have come for the ball. So they will be furious with themselves for conceding a goal that easily. But it was a good performance from them again.
I think it was a good international break, because they were really good in their previous game and won that deservedly so. And I think, almost one doesn't wish to be condescending, but Barry, you mentioned 2 Northern Ireland players in that answer, and that's Josh McGuinness and Bailey Peacock-Farrell, both of those players playing in League One. Peacock-Farrell having a torrid time at Blackpool, who've just sacked Steve Bruce, not helped by the fact that Peacock-Farrell's had a really poor start to his time there, and they're in the relegation zone in League One. And Josh McGuinness plays up front for an Exeter team, who are among the favourites for relegation in League One as well. So, it's been interesting to cycle through all of these nations, and you get a different feeling with Northern Ireland doing a lot with a sort of talent level of player that is probably the lowest of all the teams we're talking about, if we're honest, but who seem to have found something, an energy and a sort of pride, and also a way of playing that's working really well. And I think, Michael O'Neill, it's really good to see him doing well, because, as you say, he is genuinely one of the nice guys, even if he was raging here.
They're 3 points behind Slovakia. They go to Slovakia next, and then Luxembourg at home in the next break. So they could still do it. A huge game, that Slovakia game.
Slovakia beating Germany earlier in the campaign has turned out to be awful for Northern Ireland.
Yeah. Simon says, if Norway are the new Belgium, are Sweden the new Norway? Yeah, Sweden's World Cup hopes took another big blow as they lost 1-0 against Kosovo. John Dahl Tomasson has been sacked. Graham Potter said he's interested. He was in his house in Sweden telling the Swedish press that he was interested in the Sweden job, which might actually, I don't know what you think, Dan, be quite a nice fit. Like, I think he probably needs to leave the Premier League, doesn't he, for a bit? I mean, he has, not through choice.
Yeah, I think his methods might be well suited to international football. I could be wrong with that, but that's an assumption that I have in my head. But I think Jean Dahl I was reading something yesterday, Jean Dahl Tomasson's spell has been so bad that it may be unlikely that the Swedish FA will appoint anyone who isn't Swedish ever again, based on how badly that appointment's gone. So Graham Potter could suffer by the fact that he's not Swedish.
Give it Benny from ABBA.
I was going to say, and they probably, because some people probably thought John Dahl Tomasson was Swedish, and they will probably know that he isn't, won't they? They won't be thinking that. I mean, look, they've got Isak and Gyökeres and Elanga and Bergvall and, Kulusevski's when he's fit. Like, when they have their full squad, they should be at the World Cup. Mikel Merino scored 2 more for Spain as they beat Georgia 4-0. 8-8 for his country now. Cristiano Ronaldo got twice, has now scored the most goals ever in World Cup qualifiers. 41 for Portugal, breaking the previous record holder, former Guatemala striker Carlos Ruiz, on 39. They drew 2-2 with Hungary. While we're on Hungary, well done to producer Joel, who ran the Budapest Marathon in 3.5 hours. More interestingly, Chris Kavanagh and Right Said Fred were on his flight. Hopefully, Chris Kavanagh is joined to become the 3rd member of Right Said Fred, but I can't confirm that. And Cape Verde are qualified for the World Cup for the first time after beating Eswatini 3-0 on Monday night. Paul Watson is on tomorrow, so let's do the full Cape Verde tale there. But, Barry, look, there is an Irishman there who did have a good international break.
Yes, very good international break. Roberto Lopez, we've talked about him on the podcast before. plays centre-back for Shamrock Rovers. He was recruited through LinkedIn. Someone messaged him, having heard his dad was Cape Verdean, and he thought it was either someone winding him up or just spam, and ignored the message at first, but eventually contact was made. He's been playing for them for some time. I think he's a Dubliner, almost certainly if he's playing for Rovers. But big week for him because he helped Cape Verde qualify for the World Cup. Then he had to dash to the airport to fly back to Dublin because his wife was about to give birth. And he could win the Irish League with Rovers on Friday night as well. So that would be quite a memorable week for the man they call Pico.
Yeah. In the huge Football Weekly's second and third biggest market, the USMNT beat Australia 2-1. Coventry's Hadji Wright getting 2 goals for the US.
I had no idea Hadji Wright was American.
No, you do now. What about Kobe Jones?
I was aware of that, all right, yeah.
Okay. John Harkes. I'm just going through Coventry Americans. I think I'm out. Yes, producer Joel says, if the people at Wendy's and Castlemaine Forex want to get in touch, we're always happy to hear from you lot. In the World Cup's going to be good, isn't it? Donald Trump has threatened to move World Cup games. If somebody's doing a bad job, I feel there's unsafe conditions, I would call Gianni, the head of FIFA, who's phenomenal, and I would say, let's move it to another location, and he would do that. I don't know if that is FIFA's role. So the National Football Association of the host country determines the stadiums. In other news, Gianni and Trump news, Infantino was at the Gaza Peace Summit in Egypt. Gianni said, FIFA's here to help, to assist and put ourselves at disposal for whatever we can do to make sure that this peace process comes to fruition and to the best possible end. Football's role has to be support, has to be to unite, has to be to give hope in the region. In Gaza, in Palestine, we will, of course, help to rebuild all the football facilities. We'll help bring football back together with the Palestinian Football Association in every corner of the country. We'll bring footballs, we'll build pitches, we'll bring instructors, we'll help organise competitions, we'll launch a fund to help rebuild football infrastructure in Palestine. Tariq Panja wrote an interesting piece, actually, in the New York Times, our mate, about the fact that the Palestinian FA are still waiting for an answer from FIFA about the fact that the Israeli League is still playing games in the West Bank, which goes against FIFA regulation. But it's okay, because Gianni's there to bring world peace for everyone.
I mean, the bromance, well, it's not really a bromance, it's total obsequiousness by Infantino in the face of Trump, or in the company or orbit of Trump. It is quite funny, but it is also a little worrying, because FIFA is supposed to be absolutely neutral, and the way Infantino has aligned himself with Trump and indeed Netanyahu is almost sinister at this stage. You know, there isn't supposed to be political interference in football, international football, but the levels of bias he shows both Israel and the US is a source of concern. The thing about moving games that you said earlier, I think that's old news unless Trump reiterated
I think he said it. I think he said it yesterday. But yes,
I've already come out and said, look, he cannot move games on a whim. We won't stand for that. Which is not to say that they might if he insists upon it, but it's difficult to see happening from a logistical point of view.
I don't remember anyone ever thinking, you know what football really needs? Donald Trump. That's what it's missing right now. It's an incredible crossover.
It is, and I just the idea of, you know, the World Cup's all planned. You've got your wall chart, and then suddenly, you know, Argentina versus Romania has just been moved just to a Stevenage. Why not? And you've just got to, really? We've got to go there? That's odd. Anyway, that'll do for part 2. Part 3 will begin with the confirmation of Jack Wilshere going to Luton. Welcome to part 3 of the Guardian Football Weekly. Phil on Twitter says, with Jack Wilshere at the wheel, are we still dirty Luton? You always will be to me, Phil. He's been appointed the manager, replacing Matt Bloomfield, who was sacked last week. We chatted about it a little bit, but Ali, what's your take on this?
I think it's a brave appointment from Luton. Gary Sweet is their CEO, and he's kind of, you know, when Luton were going from League Two to the Premier League, and in doing so, promising a new stadium that would create a new future for them. Everyone was pretty into Gary Sweet, and now that they've suffered back-to-back relegations and seemingly at risk of ending a 2-year stint with parachute payments, very much still in League One, people aren't so keen on Gary Sweet. So I think in that context, it's pretty brave to appoint a 33-year-old first-time senior manager. Obviously, Wilshere's name and his connection with Luton, which is he spent a year or two in the academy when he was 8 before Arsenal gobbled him up, and he is and his family are from around that part of the world. That's being leaned on quite heavily in the announcement as like a kind of welcome home vibe, which I find a bit of a stretch, and frankly won't matter at all unless he gets the team playing well. The good news is, I would suggest one of the best possible jobs for a first-time manager is a job where you have the biggest budget and most expensive team in the league by miles. Luton have like a massive squad, basically 2 starting 11s if everyone's fit, who should be, really strong League One players. Now everyone hasn't been fit. They've struggled with injuries, and Matt Bloomfield just could not work out a way of putting a team together on the pitch with round pegs in round holes, playing a style of play that was, it was neither effective nor easy on the eye. So there's lots in Wilshere's in tray, if you like, but I still think this is a smart move from him. It's a bit cynical to say, but Kieran McKenna going into Ipswich when they were in a very similar situation where, things hadn't gone very well under Paul Cook, but they just had way more money than almost every team in the league. I think it's just smart because you're generally going to have a good, a decent win percentage. There's a good chance that they still win promotion this season, although they haven't started that well. There's a long way to go. And I just think that's quite a smart choice from Wilshere rather than maybe a struggling Championship club where the ceiling's a bit lower. So, I think brave from Luton, but I'm pretty excited about it. I don't necessarily think that just because they've been in a bit of a spiral, they needed someone with experience of the league or an older head. I don't know. Maybe they do, maybe they don't, but I quite like they've gone for this approach.
Quite smart to get Chris Powell in alongside him as well, someone who is experienced and will bring that know-how.
Yeah, one of the greatest men in football, Chris Powell. So, never a bad thing to have him involved.
Nicer than Linvoy Primus? Not possible.
Is Linvoy Primus still involved in football? When does the statute of limitations expire? 20 years after you retire?
I think if you're a footballer, you're always in football.
Okay,
at some level.
I'd say Chris Powell's worked a little harder to still be in the category of in football.
Don't knock Primus.
Sorry, Linvoy.
Former Lioness captain Millie Brights announced her retirement from international football. She was capped 88 times, captained England to Euro success in 2022. Became the second ever England captain to reach a World Cup final in 2023. Injuries have made her a bit more of a peripheral figure for the Lionesses. Ruled herself out of the summer's Euro success. She says, physically, I'm at a crossroads. Can I be 50% for each, for England and for Chelsea? I want to be all in to give myself the best chance of doing that and be the best for my club. I probably need to rein it in a little bit. I'm really proud of my England career. I just want to say a massive thank you to everyone for your support, especially over the summer. It's never an easy decision. It feels like the right one. Of course, the Guardian Women's Football Weekly will cover that in great detail. So download that wherever you get your podcasts. Candid on X says, does Baz know how effing long half a bloody marathon is?
I do. It's 13.1 miles, Max.
Yeah, we spoke to you on the pod, of course, already about this, but you officially launched your campaign on Instagram after doing a run. Yeah. So how far did you go and how are the calves and how are you feeling?
Well, I mean, you emotionally blackmailed / goaded me into running a half marathon back in April on the grounds that I said it was probably quite easy. I was belittling the efforts of a friend of mine, Gavin, who'd run one the previous day. So having aborted several attempts to start training, I realised at the weekend that there's only 6 months left to go. So I no longer think it's going to be easy. But I went for my first official run yesterday. Ran 2 miles. I can't bail out now because I set up a Just Giving page. I've set myself a target to raise £13,100, which is ambitious, but hopefully some of the listeners can help out. And I've already raised, through the generosity of loads of people, most of whom I don't know, nearly £3,000. So thank you to everyone who's contributed so far.
Yeah, I was devastated that someone you don't know has donated £500 because now
that was incredible.
There's huge pressure on how much I should donate. And I'm spending a lot of time thinking, yes, considering I goaded you into doing this, the eyes will be out. Can I put, when you just fill in the thing, but you don't put the amount, which is...
No, you have to put the amount. You can't claim that some anonymous person who donated a large amount is you.
Oh, I see. But, it's a bit like Larry David in the hospital wing. If I'm anonymous, but I've actually given more, or do you think you put anonymous, but I only give you 50p? Anyway.
I'm about to donate a $5 and sign it off as Max Rushden.
Good morning.
Shame on you, whoever donated 500 quid. But that guy might be a billionaire, Barry. It's all relative, isn't it? I've got children to feed.
That is true. Look, Max, you can give whatever you want. I will be judgmental, whatever the amount is.
Okay, noted. Well, look, good luck. Keep going. The first run is the hardest. They get easier from now.
I very much doubt if the first one was the hardest, then it should be a doddle because I'm not in any pain today or anything. So looking forward to the second one.
But will you have a big T-shirt that says Barry so the hordes of people going to watch can cheer you on?
Yes.
Good. Okay. Well, look, we'll obviously keep you. But it'll be the most exciting thing that happens on Football Weekly in the next 6 months. That's for sure. But that'll do for today. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ali. Cheers, Baz.
Thanks.
Football Weekly is produced by Joel Grove and Jesse Howard. Our executive producer is Danielle Stevens. We'll be back on... Oh, what day is it today?
Thursday.
We'll be back
tomorrow.
Oh, yeah. We'll be back tomorrow. That's it. Yeah. See you tomorrow.
This is The Guardian.